In today's video, I will show you how to create this really cool UFO abduction. The cool thing is that we are going to be doing everything inside of Adobe After Effects. We are going to be using the new feature that allows you to import a 3D model and animate it in there. If you want to follow along using the exact same files as me, I will provide you with links to them in the description below. And by the way, I am super excited to finally announce the launch of the Next Level Editing University. I'm going to be teaching you how to create epic videos from start to finish in the most efficient way possible. If you want to create amazing videos just like me, then definitely click the link in the description below to get early access. Back to the video. Alright, so the example I made with ArtGrid's footage, but in this case we're going to use a different kind of footage from Pexels, so you can follow along with this tutorial using the exact same footage as me. So click the link in the description below to download this video clip here of a cow eating grass. Pretty cool shot, so we're going to click and free download. And then next we'll need a 3D model of the UFO, which is really a game changer now that you can do this in Adobe After Effects. So the best website to find 3D models for this instance is sketchfab.com. So go over there and find the 3D model of your desire. So in this case, it's going to be a UFO. I have a few options that I found on the website, which are downloadable as well for free. So you can go and take a look at what UFO you prefer. In this case, I went for this UFO right here. So I'm going to click on download 3D model. And over here, you can either download the GLTF or the GLB. I prefer to work with the GLB because these tend to have the least problems. Once you have downloaded those files, we can now import these in Adobe After Effects by bringing them over here and then click on the video footage and drag it into a new composition. Next up, we're going to check we have some minimal shake in our shot. So what I will do is go over to the warp stabilizer. And if you don't see that, we go over to window tracker and click on the warp stabilizer and set it to no motion. That's going to analyze this in the background, and I'll be back once this is stabilized. The way you learn video editing is about to change forever. All through 2024, I have been pouring my heart into something truly epic. Next Level Editing University. It's designed especially for creators just like you. And I can honestly say that I have never worked so hard on any project ever before. If you want to stay updated and unlock early access, click the link in the description below to find out more. Let's create something truly epic and amazing together. Alright, so once that is done, you should see a locked shot like so. That's great. We can change the resolution to full so we see it in its full glory. And then next what I want to do is scale down this image here. So I will give more room for the UFO to appear, something like this, and then bring it down. And for example, the UFO can now be right here. So you can do this however you want, but just make sure you have some space for the UFO to appear in your video. After that, go to Composition, Save Frame As File, and save this file as a Photoshop document in your project folder and click Render. Now open up Adobe Photoshop and bring in this file. In here, we will see this with the empty space. So we're going to take our rectangle tool, select the cow with the rectangle tool like so, hold Ctrl Shift and press I on the keyboard to invert the selection, and then click on Generative Fill and Generate. That's going to fill in the background like so. We have a few options we can choose from by going through the options here. I think the first one looks good enough. Then click on the lasso tool and we're going to make a selection around our cow. Also make sure to bring in the shadows of the cow. And there we go, Generative Fill and Generate. That's going to remove the cow from our shot. Great. Now after that, go back to the rectangle tool and select your sky. If you want a different sky, you can also generate a sky here. So maybe nice evening star-filled sky, and click Generate. And so now we get something like this, which looks really cool. So choose one of these that you like. I like either this one or this one. Maybe I'll go for this one. Once you're done, just hit Ctrl S to save it and save this into the Photoshop document. Now go back to After Effects and import this Photoshop document. Go back to your composition and drag in this composition right here. And all we gotta do is duplicate our cow footage now, bring it on top, and we're going to rotoscope the cow here. So go to the beginning of your video, make sure that you're working in full resolution, click on the Rotobrush 3.0 and then double click on your layer. It's going to open up a new tab here in the layer, as you can see right here. And here we can make a selection of the cow. We're going to add everything that belongs to the cow here. And we can zoom in to get a perfect roto. And holding Alt will allow you to delete parts, for example, right here. And in between, you also want to make sure that we remove these parts. Make sure to do this as perfectly as possible. And if you want, you can always zoom in even more and really work on all the details here. Once that is done, let it play through the entire clip and verify that the roto is applied well throughout the video. If you see any mistakes, pause the playback and fix your roto there. And this looks like a great roto, so once you're done verifying, you can click on the button freeze right here, and that's going to freeze the roto, making sure that the preview or playback time is going to be a lot faster. Okay, great. Once that is done, we can close this panel and we can rename this Roto. You can also solo it for now if you want to and zoom in a little bit and play with the settings here. Maybe give it a little bit more feather. And solo it and let's see. So we only have a problem here with the shadows. So what I will do is duplicate my original footage once again, bring it just below the Roto, and we're going to make a selection of just the grass here. Like this. Press F on the keyboard and give it a little bit of feather. Not too much. And so now we brought that back. Oh, and by the way, whenever I'm not recording behind my desk and I need audio capture, I'm using the Hollyland microphones. In this case, the Hollyland Lark M2S. Completely wireless, close to invisible. It also comes with 2 microphones, and when you store the microphone or connector in the box, it's going to charge within the box. If you want to find out more, definitely check them out with the link down below. All right, back to the video. Next, we want to import our UFO and make him pick up this cow. So we're going over to the project manager and we have our UFO.glb that we imported previously. So we're going to drag that also in our composition now. And before we click OK, click on Make Comp Size, click OK. So now we have this in our shot. We can now right click, New, and create a new camera as well. I'm going for 24 millimeters and click OK. Now we can take our camera and match it to our background. If you see your 3D object with a transparent layer, make sure that right here it's not saying front, but it's actually saying active camera. Now with the camera tool, we can go over here and choose to move our camera like this. And if you click here, you can push it in the space a little bit. We just want to match it a little bit more towards the perspective of this shot. And that's going to work a little bit better. So now we need to fix the lighting for the UFO. As you can see, it's not really fitting in our scene here. For that, I will go over to polyhaven.com. And in here, you can find HDRIs for free. So go over to Assets, HDRIs, and we're going to search for skies and maybe night. And in here, search something that looks very similar to what we have. So for this instance, maybe I'll go for something with a night sky and some kind of green look on the floor. So download that. And then we're going to drag this into Adobe After Effects and drag it into our composition as well. And now we're going to right click, New, and create a new light. Here we're going to choose for the environment light. Make sure Cast Shadows is enabled and then click OK. Now we go over to the light options, and if you don't see anything, toggle the switches right here and that will show you the source. And for the source, we're going to choose that HDR that we just imported. That's going to disable this layer so you don't see it anymore because we don't need to see it. It's only going to be information for the light. Now we can click on the transform and play with the rotation here until we get something that we like. Ideally, you have an HDRI from the actual location that you're filming at. But something like this might actually work. If you think the HDRI doesn't fit yet, go back to the Polyhaven and search for a different one. So I'm going for my first option here, and I'm just going to grade my UFO to match better in my scene. So to do that, I'm going to select my light. I'm going to select the sky and the camera and the UFO and go over to Layer, pre-compose this as a UFO 3D. Click OK. And now we can apply effects to this composition. So go over to the Effects and Presets, and I will search Fast Box Blur, apply that to my comp. I'm also going to search for the Curves effect and apply that to this layer as well. And then lastly, the tint effect, apply that as well. Set the tint currently to 0, and we're just going to match our UFO a little bit better to the scene. And that works better. Next, we're going to create a new solid, and this is going to be my ray. So I'm going to give it a white greenish color like so, and call it ray. Click OK. And we're going to disable this solid, and we're going to choose the pen tool and make a selection like this. Hold Alt and bring down this handle. And we're going to make our ray. Something like this. And then we can re-enable this layer. We can press F on the keyboard and give it a little bit of a feather. Then we can click on the layer, Ctrl D to duplicate it. And we can press F on the keyboard and feather it even more. You can duplicate it once more and feather it even more than that. So now we have a nice gradual ray that is expanding. If you want to make it less intense at the bottom, what we can do is create a new solid and call this mask. And we're going to choose the ellipse tool and make an ellipse like this. Press F on the keyboard for that layer and also feather this quite a bit. Now bring this on top, toggle the switches until you see the track matte option. Select all of the rays that we have, and then with the pick whip tool, we're going to select that mask layer. Now you can feather this even more, and you can see that we get a nice gradient look as we move down with this ray. Something like this looks pretty nice, so we can leave it as it is. So now we're going to select all of the rays and also parent this to the first ray. And we're going to reposition this ray wherever it's supposed to be. Press P on the keyboard and click on the stopwatch. We're going to animate this ray to follow along with this UFO. So now we need to animate the UFO first. The thing is, we already pre-composed this UFO into a new composition, so we don't see the actual footage to have any reference. So what I will do is copy my original footage, Ctrl C, go into the UFO 3D composition and Ctrl V to paste our footage in here. Bring the footage all the way at the bottom. And then we're going to right click on this layer and change it to a guide layer. We can also bring in the Photoshop composition, Ctrl C and Ctrl V, and also right click and change it to a guide. This way we can see our background, but it's actually not going to be rendered out on our composition if we solo this in the main composition. So I'm going to click on my 3D UFO, press P on the keyboard and click on the stopwatch. Go back to the beginning, and here we're going to push it in the Y space actually, and move it over to a spot where it's coming from. Like this, it comes to take our cow. We're going to create another keyframe right here, and then it flies off in the distance in front of us until it's out of the frame. And there we go. Okay, great. Now, the next thing that we can do is add in some rotation. So press R on the keyboard and click on the stopwatch for the orientation. And at the beginning, we can give it a little bit of a rotation like this. And just before it stops here, we're going to tilt it backwards a little bit, so it actually seems that it's somewhat coming to a stop. And we can change the resolution here to quarter, so we can preview this faster, and we can also enable Draft 3D, which is going to make this tremendously faster. We can also go to the beginning here and click on the stopwatch for Z rotation, and all the way at the end we're going to change this to 1, so it rotates 1 full rotation by the end of this video, and that way our UFO has a constant motion to it. And right here, press U on the keyboard, and right here, create a keyframe for the orientation. And a little bit more in time, we're going to rotate the UFO a little bit more like it's actually taking off. Let's do a little preview here. So the motion looks okay, but it comes to a stop very suddenly. So we're going to move over these keyframes, right click on this first keyframe where it comes to a stop on the position and click on Easy Ease. And then for the last one, also right click Easy Ease. And then we're going to click on the position, go over to the graph editor, and we're going to extend this like so and like so. And that way we're going to have a smooth curve when it comes to a stop, and it's going to look a lot more dynamic. For these, we can also right click and easy ease these animations. Play with the timing of each keyframe until you have something that you like. So now we can go back to our main composition and focus on the rays. Right here, I want to start the race, so I'm going to select all of these layers and trim them until my time indicator. And around right here, I want them to stop, so I'm going to trim them until here. Maybe a little bit longer, so extend it a little bit longer. Now select the ray that is not parented to the other rays, and we're going to press P on the keyboard. We already have this one keyframe. Now we can zoom in and move this always in the perfect spot for our center point. This looks all right. You can also click on all the rays, toggle the switches until you see the blending modes and change it to screen. Now take your roto of the cow. We can press P on the keyboard, click on the stopwatch for the position, bring it a little bit more towards the beginning of the race. Go to that keyframe, hold shift and press S on the keyboard to reveal the scale property as well, and click on the scale property as well. And then we're going a little bit more towards the end, and we're going to scale down our cow. And we're going to bring him up entirely like so, and then trim this until the end of it. And of course we can still see the cow here, and that's because of this layer. So from the second that the light is actually cast on the floor, we go one frame back, click on the stopwatch for the opacity, one frame further, zero this out. And that way it's not going to be too obvious. If you want, you can always bring in some fake shadow in here. And then select these keyframes, bring them closer to the beginning, right click, easy ease them, and go to the graph editor as well, and then bring these out so it comes to a slow start. Perfect. We can also select these rays, press T on the keyboard and lower the opacity a little bit. Then right click, new, and create a solid. And we're going to create a displacement map. We're going to copy one of the rays, masks. So press M on the keyboard, click on the mask, Ctrl C, go to the displacement map, Ctrl V. And then we're going to apply fractal noise. Apply this to this layer and hold Alt and click on the stopwatch for the evolution. Time times 250 is what we will enter in the expression. Click enter and then go over to transform. Click on the stopwatch for offset turbulence. Press U on the keyboard to reveal the keyframe and bring it to the beginning. And then hold shift, and on this last value, we're going for a negative 10,000. Bring this all the way at the end. And so now we have this kind of energy going up. Now we can create one more solid, and this is going to be a perfectly 50% gray solid, which means it's not going to have any effect to what we're trying to do. Bring this below this layer of displacement map, select the displacement map and the gray solid, and also make sure, actually, click on the displacement map here, go into solid settings, and change it also to a gray color. It doesn't have to be perfect. Click OK. And then select both of these layers and go over to layer, pre-compose this, move all the attributes, and call this map for displacement map. And we can then toggle this off so we don't see it. And then right click and create a new adjustment layer. And this is going to be our this map again. So we rename it, search for displacement map. and apply this to this adjustment layer. And now we can choose this texture that we just created. So go over to the layer options and choose this map that we just created. And now we can offset here a little bit of the displacement, and you can see that it will have some effect on our look here. So maybe keep it subtle, and you can always go back in your disk map, click on the displacement and play with the contrast, go and transform and maybe scale it up a little bit more, maybe change it to a dynamic progressive instead. And if we go back, we will see the changes here. Of course, the disk map should only start from the second the light is emitted. So we're going to trim this to the point of the light, like this. Okay, so next up, we want to right click and create a new adjustment layer. And we're going to call this grade. And here we're going to apply a curves effect, double click, and then also apply a tint effect and double click. And for the tint color, we're going to choose some kind of bluish kind of color to represent the night. Click OK and lower the opacity until you have something that looks like evening, but it does make a difference in our shot. We can also add more contrast and more brightness to make our shot look more final. If you want, go back to your UFO and push the blacks a little bit more so you can see it a little bit better. Maybe lower the highlights from here. You can always duplicate your UFO shot and bring it all the way on top. And in here, we're going to reset the curves. And we're just going to bring down this mid curve so we really get these colors popping. And if you want, you can even go to the project manager, duplicate your UFO 3D, Control D, and hold Alt and replace it with the top UFO here. Go into the UFO channel and set the intensity of the light to 0. And then go back to your main comp. Now only the lights of the UFO will be emitted. Now go and search for a solid composite effect, double click to apply it. That will fill the background. Instead of transparent to white, click on the white color and change it to black. Click OK. And now I'm going to apply the perfect glow preset, which you can download with a link in the description below. It's for free on our website, but this allows you to get really nice and rich glows. So once this is applied, deselect everything, and in the main glow settings, we're going to increase the intensity. Also change the resolution to full so we can clearly see what we are doing. And increase the radius and intensity until you have something that you like. Once you're done, change the blending mode to screen, and now you will see that you have some glow on your UFO, which really makes this pop. Now, if we preview everything, we get something like this. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give this video a like, and also be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to stay notified when I upload new videos. Apart from that, I hope to catch you in the next one. Until then, create epic videos.